the band who left a fan paralyzed. Trophy Eyes, an Australian punk rock band, hosted a concert in Buffalo, New York. In attendance was 24-year-old Bird Pichet, who was standing somewhere near the front close to the band. This would soon be a choice that she would regret, when the lead singer, John Floriani, would stage dive on top of her and cause her to become paralyzed. Jumping off the stage thinking that he would land on top of the mosh pit, he would instead land directly on top of Pichet, putting all of his weight on top of her, in turn leading to a catastrophic spinal cord injury that would leave her paralyzed. Bird would then be rushed to the hospital where she would undergo intensive surgery. Trophy Eyes would later come out with a statement on Twitter saying how the incident was tragic and that they had to wait until the family cleared them to be able to speak on the situation, donating $5,000 to the GoFundMe page. The craziest thing about this all is that something similar occurred years before at that very same venue, Mohawk Place, when members from the California hardcore band Terror began stage diving and injured a fan named Mike Bird, causing similar injuries like that of Bird Pichet, leading the venue to ban crowd surfing in 2011, although this of course would be ignored. Robin Williams was known for stealing jokes. A clip on TikTok of Joe Rogan talking about Robin Williams being a joke thief has gone viral, and a lot of people have started to dig into the whole Robin Williams stealing jokes thing. And if you dig long enough, you'll find a video clip of Robin Williams actually admitting to all of this and stating that he needed to stop going to comedy clubs because he was just doing it seamlessly. He would do it to the point that other comedians started to confront him about their joke stealing, and he would just outright pay them for their joke, stating that he paid them so much that they would often come back, saying that he hadn't paid them at first and then he would pay him again. Does this ruin Robin Williams' reputation, or does this make him seem like a bad person? If he did accidentally steal the jokes but then later paid for them, and the comics were alright with it and didn't have any beef with Robin Williams, then there's nobody that ends up hurt. At the end of the day, I think he's also better known for his movies rather than for his stand-up comedy. And as far as I've seen, no other comic has tried to ruin his reputation or called him out for trying to steal their joke. But what do you guys think? Does this make you see Robin Williams in a different light? J.K. Rowling does not exist. Finland doesn't exist. The notion that J.K. Rowling, the celebrated author of the Harry Potter series, does not exist might sound like the premise of a fantasy novel itself. This theory, however, has garnered attention and curiosity from various quarters, suggesting that Rowling is either a pseudonym for a collective of writers or a fictional persona created by a publishing company. While largely a French conspiracy theory, it has sparked a significant discussion about authorship, creativity, and the nature of literary fame. The J.K. Rowling does not exist theory first gained traction on internet forums and blogs in the early 2000s, particularly following an article published in 2005. This article detailed claims by film director Nia Grunfield, who asserted that she was not fooled, unlike the wider world. The theory posits that the intricate world of Harry Potter, with its detailed lore and complex characters, is too vast and well constructed to be the work of a single individual. Proponents argue that such a monumental literary achievement could only have been produced by a team of writers, possibly orchestrated by a major publishing house seeking to maximize profit. They point to the consistency and depth of the Harry Potter universe, arguing that the intricate plotlines, detailed backstories, and elaborate magical system are indicative of collaborative writing. The consistency across 7 books, they claim, suggests a coordinated effort rather than the work of a single mind. Another argument centers on the rapidity with which the books were published. Rowling released the 7-book series over a span of 10 years, along with the supplementary materials and related works. Critics find it implausible that one person could maintain such a high level of creativity and output over a relatively short period. Skeptics also highlighted the lack of substantial evidence of Rowling's existence before the release of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in 1997. They argue that there are few verifiable records of her life and career prior to her emergence as a literary superstar, suggesting that her backstory might have been fabricated. Specifically, they claim that Rowling's rags to riches story is an ingenious marketing ploy. Her narrative, transforming from a struggling single mother to a billionaire author, is compelling and marketable, designed to inspire readers and build a dedicated fan base. This, according to theorists, would have been orchestrated by a savvy publishing house looking to create a relatable and inspiring public figure. However, there are substantial detractors to this bizarre conspiracy theory. There is significant evidence supporting Rowling's existence and authorship. Interviews, public appearances, and documented personal history all corroborates her identity as the author of the Harry Potter series. Rowling has given numerous interviews, providing insights into her creative process and personal life, which align with the timeline of her writing career. Her literary style is consistent with that of a singular author, not a collective. Many individuals who have interacted with Rowling, including editors, fellow authors, and personal acquaintances, also attest to her existence and her role in writing the Harry Potter series. These testimonies provided credible evidence against the theory. Additionally, there is ample documentary evidence, including early drafts, handwritten notes, and correspondence that trace the development of the Harry Potter books. These materials have been studied and authenticated, further debunking the notion of a fictional author. While the theory that J.K. Rowling does not exist is widely debunked and quite frankly a little silly, its persistence speaks to broader questions about authorship and the nature of creativity in the modern age. It reflects skepticism towards extraordinary talent and success, suggesting that such achievements are beyond the capacity of a single individual. This skepticism is amplified in an era of ghostwriting, collaborative writing teams, and corporate marketing strategies. The theory also underscores the power of narrative in shaping public perception. Rowling's life story, intertwined with the success of her books, adds a layer of mythos that enhances her appeal. It raises questions about how much of what we know about famous authors is real and how much is crafted by publicists and marketing teams. Regardless of its implausibility, the theory serves as a fascinating case study in contemporary conspiracy theories, reflecting deeper anxieties about authenticity, authorship, and the commodification of creativity. As with many such theories, it challenges us to critically evaluate the narratives presented to us and to appreciate the complex interplay between reality and fiction in the world of literature. It is only natural that celebrities are targeted due to their immense influence. It appears that Rowling's rags to riches story is simply down to coincidence due to its marketability. Those strange conspiracy theories will always follow celebrities and are expected to some extent. Entire countries are also targets of strange conspiracy theories online. In 2014, Reddit user RareGan responded to a seemingly innocent r/ask Reddit post. The question was as follows: what did your parents show you to do that you assumed was completely normal, only to later discover that it was not normal at all? To say RareGan's answer was strange would be a massive understatement. This post is as follows. Oh god, here goes. Well, firstly, they say that the actual place of Finland is just eastern Sweden. Helsinki is in eastern Sweden, and when people fly there, it's not like they would notice. World maps are altered, as it's a UN conspiracy to keep people believing in Finland, and the idea that an entire country is made up seems so bizarre that nobody would ever believe it, making it Finland's main company. Nokia is apparently owned by the Japanese, and they're a main player in this. Now, as for why people would want to invent Finland as a country, that's a bit more in depth, and there's a few reasons as to why Sweden and Russia get along with it, but most likely to do with Japanese fishing rights. You see, the Japanese love their sushi, but tight fishing regulations and public outcry means they can't fish as much as they want to. So after the Cold War, they agreed with Russia to create a landmass called Finland, where they could fish. After all, if people thought that they were a country there, nobody would expect the Japanese to be harpooning whales, would they? The fish is then transported through Russia, where a small percentage of the food is given to the population. They were, of course, starving at the time of Finland being invented, and this is then shipped to Japan under the disguise of Nokia products. Japan is apparently one of the world's largest importers of Nokia products, despite the fact that nobody there owns a Nokia phone, apparently. The crux of all of this, however, and my favorite part, is the homage that the Japanese gave to this entire conspiracy theory. If you've ever thought to question the existence of an entire country before, then think again. The conspiracy theory that Finland doesn't exist is a curious and unusual idea, suggesting that the country of Finland is an elaborate fabrication. This theory, while seemingly outlandish, has gained some attention and discussion online. The basic premise of the theory posits that Finland is not a real geographical entity, but rather a fictional construct created by various governments for specific purposes. According to those who believe, Finland was invented during the Cold War. The theory claims that the Soviet Union and Japan concocted the idea of Finland to serve their mutual interests, with some variations suggesting that other global powers, including the United States, supported the conspiracy. The creation of Finland allegedly allowed for covert fishing operations in the Baltic Sea, which is said to contain rich fishing grounds. Japan, according to the theory, wanted access to these resources without facing international scrutiny. By inventing Finland, they could fish in these waters under the guise of Finnish territory, while the Soviet Union benefited from a strengthened political alliance with Japan. The theory further proposes that what is commonly believed to be Finland is actually part of Sweden, Russia, and Estonia. The people identified as Finns are said to live in these regions but are believed to be Swedish, Russian, or Estonian citizens who have been misled about their true nationality. This idea extends to maps and satellite images, which proponents claim are doctored or manipulated to show a non-existent country. They argue that global positioning systems and digital maps are part of a larger conspiracy to maintain the illusion of Finland's existence. Supporters of the theory also contend that the Finnish language, culture, and societal norms are elaborate inventions supported by fake historical records, literature, and media. They suggest that these elements were created to sustain the illusion of a distinct Finnish identity. Moreover, the theory implies that international bodies, including the United Nations and various global organizations, are complicit in maintaining the myth of Finland's existence. It is argued that official documents, treaties, and recognitions involving Finland are falsified to perpetuate this grand deception. While the theory that Finland doesn't exist is widely regarded as absurd and unfounded, its persistence highlights the strange depths that the mind can go to when creating strange narratives, and in case provides a very strong basis to the detractors that Rowling created the fictional world of Hogwarts. I'm sure if one can hypothesize an entire country does not exist, that one can come up with the idea to create a story like Harry Potter. In fact, although an article by Vice written in 2016 confirms that neither the original Redditor nor his parents truly believe the existence of Finland is a hoax, strangely enough, people have culminated into the sheer madness of truly believing his original claim. On the r/Finland conspiracy subreddit, they criticize this Vice interview and state that Jack is now trying to dissuade them from the truth. I can only hope they are joking, as most of the people on the r/Finland conspiracy subreddit seem to be having fun, but the truth is, you never really know with Reddit. The Great Molaire Mystery. The Great Molaire Mystery is a perplexing aviation incident from the 1970s and remains one of Scotland's most enduring unsolved cases. This mystery centers around the unexplained disappearance and subsequent discovery of a Cessna 150 aircraft and its pilot, Peter Gibbs, on the Isle of Mull, and the unusual circumstances of the event have led to numerous theories and speculations, maintaining its status as a subject of ongoing fascination. On December 24th, 1975, Peter Gibbs, a former RAF pilot and musician, vanished after taking off from the Glenforsa airfield on the Isle of Mull. Despite the late hour and unsuitable weather conditions, Gibbs decided to embark on a nighttime flight. His plane was discovered 4 months later on a hillside, with Gibbs' body found around a mile away from the wreckage. The conditions of the discovery raised more questions than answers. Gibbs and his companion, Felicity Granger, were spending Christmas at the Glenforsa Hotel, Despite warnings about the dark and windy conditions, Gibbs insisted on a solo nighttime flight. Witnesses last saw him take off around 9:30 and said it was a perfectly normal takeoff. When Gibbs failed to return, a search was initiated. In the following days, hundreds of volunteers combed the nearby countryside in an attempt to find any trace of the pilot and the plane. Fishermen searched the waters in their boats, but there was absolutely no trace of him. The RAF and Naval Air Service joined in the search efforts, utilizing a helicopter and sonar equipment. However, Gibb and his plane had vanished into thin air, as if he had never existed in the first place. In April 1976, 4 months after the original disappearance, a farmer happened upon Gibbs' body. It was lying there in the middle of a field, completely in plain sight. It is unlikely that hundreds of volunteers would have missed this in the initial search, and thus many people were left confused, even more so after the autopsy results revealed that there were no bodily injuries other than a small scrape to his leg. His cause of death was ruled as exposure, and no traces of alcohol were found in his blood, despite witnesses seeing him having drank at the hotel. It wasn't until a further 10 years later that any trace of his plane was then found by a pair of clam divers, not too far from the original runway. However, it is unconfirmed whether this was Gibbs' plane. And if it was, it doesn't make sense as to why or how the plane and pilots were separated, or why Gibb was not injured other than a small scrape to his leg. Several theories and speculations have emerged regarding this incident. One theory suggests that Gibb miscalculated his flight, possibly becoming disoriented in the dark. After crash landing, he might have tried to seek help, but succumbed to hypothermia. Critics argue that Gibbs, an experienced pilot, would not have taken such risks or made such errors. Another possibility is simple mechanical failure. Some even suggest foul play, stating that the body was placed intentionally after whatever accident occurred. This theory remains speculative, with no concrete evidence supporting it. The remote and rugged setting of the Isle of Mull also had fueled supernatural explanations, including UFO sightings and paranormal intervention. These theories, while popular in certain circles, though as usual, lack real support. Authorities conducted several inquiries, but none yielded definitive answers. As stated before, the official investigation concluded that Gibbs likely died from exposure after exiting the plane post-crash. The absence of several injuries on his body and the lack of aircraft wreckage only further complicated the investigation. The Great Mull Air Mystery remains an enigmatic chapter in aviation history. Despite extensive investigations and myriad theories, the true circumstances of Peter Gibbs' ill-fated flight and subsequent death remain completely unknown. Missing lighthouse keepers. The disappearance of the Eileen Moore lighthouse keepers in December 1900 remains one of the most perplexing maritime mysteries of all time. Eileen Moore, part of the Flannan Isles, located in the Outer Hebrides of the western coast of Scotland, was home to a newly constructed lighthouse that had only been operational for a year when its keepers vanished without a trace. The mystery has captivated the imagination of many, inspiring numerous theories and tales of what might have transpired on that desolate rock. The story began on December 26, 1900, when the relief vessel Hesperus arrived at the Eileen Moore to bring supplies and a new crew. As the vessel approached, Captain James Harvey noticed an eerie silence and the absence of the usual welcome party of lighthouse keepers. Aboard the Hesperus was Joseph Moore, the relieving keeper, who volunteered to go ashore and investigate. Upon reaching the lighthouse, Moore found the entrance gate and main door both closed but unlocked. Inside, he discovered that the clocks had stopped and an untouched meal laid on the table, suggesting a hasty departure. Moore's initial search found no trace of the keepers, prompting a thorough exploration of the island. Eventually, a logbook revealed some details of the keepers' final days, but raised more questions than it answered. The lighthouse was manned by 3 experienced keepers, James Duckett, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur. The log entries recorded by Marshall detailed several unusual events. On December 12th, Marshall noted several winds worse than anything he had seen in 20 years. Duckett was reportedly quiet, and MacArthur, known for his toughness, was weeping. The next day, the storm continued, and all 3 men were described as praying, despite being seasoned keepers who would normally take such weather in stride. The final entry on December 15th simply read, "Storm ended. Sea calm. God is over all." These entries suggest that the keepers were experiencing something far beyond typical weather-related changes, hinting at a deeper mystery. The unexplained disappearance of the Eileen Moore keepers has led to numerous theories, each attempting to solve the enigma. One prevailing theory is that a giant wave swept the men away. Evidence for this includes the damage found at the West Landing, where equipment was displaced and railings bent. However, this does not explain why all three men would have been outside during such a storm, nor why they would abandon their posts simultaneously. Another theory posits that tensions among the keepers might have led to violence or madness. The isolated and harsh environment could have exacerbated any existing psychological issues, leading to a fatal altercation. However, there is no direct evidence to support this scenario, and all three men were described as responsible and experienced. Given the remote and desolate nature of Eileen Moore, some speculate supernatural involvement, such as ghosts, sea monsters, or otherworldly forces. While these ideas capture the imagination, they lack empirical evidence and remain in the realm of folklore. A more modern theory, influenced by contemporary fascination with UFOs, suggests that the keepers were abducted by aliens. This theory, like the supernatural one, is purely speculative and unsupported by concrete evidence. Some conspiracy theories argue that the men were involved in or witnessed a clandestine government operation and were subsequently removed to ensure silence. This theory, however, lacks any historical context or supporting documentation. Despite extensive investigations and enduring public interest, the disappearance of the Eileen Moore Lighthouse keepers remains unresolved. The Northern Lighthouse Board, responsible for operating the lighthouses, conducted its own inquiry but concluded that the men were likely swept away by natural forces without providing a definitive explanation. The mystery has left a significant cultural imprint, inspiring books, songs, and films. Notably, Wilfred Wilson Gibson's poem Flannan Isle vividly captures the eerie and haunting nature of the event. Additionally, the 2019 film The Vanishing, starring Gerard Butler, dramatizes the events and explores possible psychological and supernatural explanations. The disappearance of the Eileen Moore Lighthouse keepers continues to intrigue and baffle, standing as a testament to the enduring power of unsolved mysteries. While numerous theories attempt to explain the events of December 1900, none provide a conclusive answer, leaving the fates of Duckett, Marshall, and MacArthur shrouded in uncertainty. The story serves as a poignant reminder of the challenges faced by those who lived and worked in remote and perilous environments, and it continues to captivate the imagination of all who hear it. The mystery of Eileen Moore reflects not only on the specific events, but also on the broader human condition, our enduring curiosity, our need for answers, and our fascination with the unknown. As we continue to explore and investigate, the story of the Eileen Moore Lighthouse keepers remains a haunting enigma, a piece of history that resists full understanding, and a compelling narrative that invites endless speculation. Joy of Satan website. The Joy of Satan website is a strangely eerie experience upon first glance, and especially unsettling if you simply happen upon it by accident, as I had. The layout of the website is nothing special, and in fact holds that Wild West internet feel about it, as discussed with the LOL Superman section. It has a HTML black background with red text, highlighting the important sections on the website. The most outright disturbing part of the website is by far the ritual section, which gives you pages upon pages of different demons and deities to summon, for whatever reason you could possibly fathom. It even has instructions on how to summon the devil himself, should you wish to do that for some strange reason. The website itself would serve as a strange find in its own right. However, the history behind it is a small rabbit hole that I did not expect to uncover. The website is an information bank for a whole sect of the satanic religion, Satanism. The history of Satanism as a religion is complex and multifaceted, reflecting a variety of beliefs and practices that have evolved over centuries. Despite its controversial and often misunderstood nature, Satanism has developed into a distinct religious and philosophical movement with various expressions and organizations. The concept of Satan as the embodiment of evil has roots in Judeo-Christianity theology. However, the idea of Satanism as an organized practice is relatively modern. During medieval and early modern Europe, accusations of Satanism were often levied during witch hunts and inquisitions. Individuals were accused of worshiping Satan and performing malevolent rituals, though these accusations were typically unfounded and fueled by fear and superstition. In the 19th century, literary and artistic movements began to explore satanic themes more openly. Figures like the French writer Charles Baudelaire and the English occultist Aleister Crowley contributed to the growing fascination with Satan as a symbol of rebellion and individualism. Crowley, in particular, with his philosophy of Thelema, emphasized the personal freedom and the pursuit of one's true will, which often included provocative references to satanic imagery. This period marked the beginning of a shift where Satan was increasingly seen not just as a figure of Christian evil, but as a symbol of defiance against established norms and moral codes. Beyond these organized forms of Satanism, there are also individual and smaller groups who practice forms of theistic Satanism, which involves the worship or veneration of Satan as a literal deity or spiritual entity, and this is where the Joy of Satan ministries seem to fall under. The Joy of Satan Ministries is a controversial organization founded by Maxine Dietrich and, as the name suggests, is a branch of Satanism. However, the Joy of Satan website goes a step beyond just being an unnerving site. The site itself has many strange and downright unsavory topics on their forum, some of which include forums for 13 to 19-year-olds who wish to establish a relationship with Satan, as well as its underlying ties to United States neo-Nazi movements. In fact, its founder is the wife of a well-known neo-Nazi leader. If you comb through the old archives of the website, much of it reads as conspiratorial and nonsensical ramblings, including 9/11 conspiracies and anti-Semitic racist rants. The site is not disturbing due to its occult themes, but instead from the pure hatred and rage that seethes from beneath its code. Silent Hill 2 is a beautiful game. It is perfect, in my opinion, of course, and my preferred way to play it is on the PS2. Why, you may ask? Well, it's because of the Reddit soldiers that advise me that it's the best way to experience the game for the first time. And so, like a sheep, I believed them and bought myself a fat PS2, not to be confused with the inferior PS2 Slim, and a copy of Silent Hill 2. Thing wasn't cheap to get, but it needed to be done for the sake of my existence. The physical copy had so much aura for some reason, it called my name. And so I ordered them both on eBay, went to Mexico and saw the pyramids, finally came back to unbox them, and have been playing it since. For 6 months since January, only completing it once, but I have to say, it has been the best game I have played by far. Though I have to admit, I'm not a real gamer. Sad gamer moment. I didn't really grow up playing tons of popular video games and have only really started playing the classics recently when I got a PS5 last year. So far I have completed The Last of Us Part 1, GTA San Andreas the Definitive Edition. Don't worry, I bought the PS2 version as well to experience the OG graphics. And that's about it. I'm still playing Red Dead Redemption 2. Does this thing ever end? I don't know. But even after watching or knowing of a bunch of other games through gameplays or playing it at a friend's house and whatnot, there is still something very special about Silent Hill 2 that sets it apart from the rest. Even taking a single screenshot from any moment of the game looks like a work of art to me, like a beautiful dark and gothic painting or a scene from a really good horror film. The game has a vibe of its own and you won't know it until you play the PS2 version through AV wires on an old TV. The way it was meant to be played, grainy and foggy, the best combo. Ultimately, I did switch over to PS2 to HDMI adapter as I wanted a better picture, but before purchasing that, I got to experience the past. I time traveled Imagine it's 2001 and you barely purchased the game. You get into your apartment and dive into the creepy town of Silent Hill and all of its mystery. The internet wasn't mainstream yet. You couldn't download games on the console, and the in-game purchases weren't real. It was perfect. Even the start menu, the sound effects on the start menu, and all of its glory are so nostalgic to a time I didn't even exist. The transition animations are also classy and simple, depicting glowing and fading footsteps. The graphics are also good for the time period it came out, and the lighting gives off an eerie vibe that is so hard to capture. There's something so ominous but yet peaceful about the gameplay and what the game developers wanted you to experience. Doing something as simple as walking and exploring can lead to the next mission, due to the fact that they don't give you much help on how to progress in the story, a challenge you soon grow to yearn. You do it all by being curious, using your given map and trying new things out. The fog presents itself in the beginning of the game and sets a discomforting tone, denying you the comfort of being able to see what's coming from far and what's creeping up behind you. It gives the game so much character and richness that it has gripped even people who haven't played the game through the popular memes. But one should also know that it doesn't only take place in the outside fog. Although neglected to be mentioned, a lot of the story's gameplay takes place inside buildings, as well as underground. The settings are also tasteful and entertaining. Every place felt unique and cared for. Nothing looked lazily done, something I can't say for a lot of other PS2 games I have in my collection so far. The voice acting is rigid and almost sounds like an audiobook. You grow to like it as you play on, as it adds an offsetting, almost uncanny valley tone. It's almost as if you are hearing something in your dream. It's ethereal, like the game itself.
So, why did you come to this town anyway?
I, I'm sorry. Did you find the person you're looking for?
Not yet. Her name's Mary. She's my wife.
The controls are what got me thinking my PS2 was glitching out or something the first time playing. I couldn't look around using the right joystick. I had to rely on the camera automatically panning while moving with the lift joystick. I didn't have the privilege of being able to control the camera, only having semi-control every once in a while, using L2 when they felt like granting me that privilege. I would soon come to realize that, yep, that's how things used to be. You'll get used to it. Apparently they are called ting controls, thank you to Wikipedia. Ting controls are a control system used in video games whereby players control movement relative to the position of the player character, rather than the perspective of the game camera. If you're more confused, in a game with the ting controls, pressing up on the game controller moves the character in the direction they face, down reverses them, and left and right rotates them. This differs from many games in which characters move in the direction players push from the perspective of the camera. The term tank controls comes from the steering mechanisms of old tanks, which had to stop completely before turning. Tank controls were common in 3D games in the 1990s, such as Grandman Fandango and the early Resident Evil and Tomb Raider games. Tank controls allow players to maintain a direction when the camera angle changes. The Grim Fandango designer Tim Schafer chose the system as it allowed the developers to create cinematic camera cuts without disrupting the controls. Shinji Mikami, the director of the first Resident Evil 1996, felt the use of fixed camera perspectives and tank controls made the game scarier. And I think they do too, as they make me feel even more concentrated on the game. Use of the cinematic camera was excellent and made scenes so much more aesthetically pleasing and movie-like, enhancing the experience and immersiveness. I think this is where much of what makes Silent Hill 2 unique comes from. Fighting the monsters James Sunderland encounters is more of a challenge because of these factors, making a kill a lot more rewarding. I got to say the outstanding music in Silent Hill 2 is the reason why I was attracted to the game in the first place, and it's one of the major reasons why I believe it's so popular. It binds the fabric of the game together and pairs up with what we are seeing on screen perfectly. The classic soft melody lingers in your ear even after it's done playing. Ethereal synths play in the background as you are exploring sometimes. Black Fairy is the theme song for Nightmares, and so on, with many great ballads. It makes Silent Hill 2, well, Silent Hill 2. Melancholy is the taste of the music. Akira Yamaoka, the music composer, described it as such. This man not only created the music, he worked on the sound design and created all the sound effects in the game, integrating unique footstep sounds so the listener wouldn't get bored of repetition. Using the element of surprise, he was unique in his approach of composition. Even the physical copy is so cool to own, a little nostalgia trip to a different time for gaming. The pamphlet that it comes with has warnings about PS2 triggering seizures in certain individuals, and a table of contents showing you how to get started playing the game, as well as a brief introduction to the characters. The James page reading, 3 years ago, his beloved wife, Mary, became seriously ill and passed away. James was wasting away in empty, lifeless days of mourning when a strange letter arrived. The name of the sender was Mary Shepard Sunderland, his late wife. The cryptic letter beckoned him to meet her in Silent Hill, a town that once held a great meaning for the couple. Although he firmly believes his wife is not alive, James questions the origin of the letter and is determined to find the truth by returning to Silent Hill. Really cool art here too. Hints are also included in the pamphlet. And then there's a 2-page spread of Silent Hill 2 artwork reading, "Some fear death, others pray for it, others spray for it," I read at first. Everything about this game is a piece of art, and I can't recommend it enough that you play the PS2 version and get that nostalgic experience. If you're a combat fan, maybe the game is not going to be your cup of tea. You have to get used to the controls and learn how to keep a distance from all of the monsters you encounter, but it's something worth giving a try. Finishing the game, I would say that it mainly consists of mystery solving, exploring, mixed in with a few fun combat moments. There is a dark, grimy aura that manifests through the game that I can't find anywhere else. The red squares work as checkpoints throughout the game and are kind of hinted at meaning something deeper than just an interesting save game trigger thingamajig. Looking at this thing makes me feel like someone's groping around inside my skull. It gives me a weird feeling. James says after looking at the red square for the first time within a circular well. This whole red square thing may be a reference to the Philosopher's Stone, due to the fact that the first game had tons of alchemy references. The Philosopher's Stone was a mythical substance that alchemists believe held the key to an elixir of life, a substance that makes rejuvenation and immortality possible. The red squares save the game and make it possible to keep on playing where you left off. Immortality? The bobblehead nurses' mouths are covered by red squares as well, symbolizing Mary being suffocated under a pillow, confirmed by Masahiro Ito on Twitter, now art director of Team Silent. The use of mirrors in the game is also layered in meanings, as Team Silent went out of their way to make reflections possible in the mirrors, well, in some mirrors, by creating 2 separate rooms that parallel each other. Masashi Tsuboyama, an art director for Silent Hill 2, stated that he wanted to disturb and attract the player, creating something with an aura of mystery, he states. Once again, they did not cut corners when it came to the creation of Silent Hill 2. Something as common as motion capture was not used on the facial expressions of the characters, as Takeyoshi Sato, the character artist, decided that the actors could not replicate what he was looking for, and manually adjusted all their facial expressions by hand, though the body sequences did require motion capture. Eddie, the gluttonous character, has dilated pupils, and if you pay close attention, has a lazy eye, or more accurately, lazy eyes, modeled after one of the game developers' real friend, done secretly. Masahiro Ito, the monster designer, made sure to add a human element to each of his abominations with a twist. They each moved in an unnatural way to instill an uneasy feeling, uncanny valley. His idea for a binded up monster in a straitjacket derived from a game programmer who was walking with his hands in his hoodie pockets, with his hood on, walking with swagger, as he himself put it. Irish-British painter Francis Bacon was also an inspiration, as his pieces depict raw, tortured imagery. Pyramid Head has to be the most ominous character, dragging around a big blade. It slowly and confidently approaches. I remember the first time encountering this character, hopeless inside a locked room. I thought this had to be the final boss, but to my surprise, no. It is a manifestation of James Sunderland's guilt, dealing with all the shame he has been suppressing. The monster is the punisher for all the past sins committed. James Sunderland craves the monster deep inside, but he can't live with himself. The sharp edges of the pyramid head is supposed to signify pain, as well as the great knife that it wields. Sex and death were used to cause fear, and to trigger emotions for those experiencing Silent Hill 2. They aimed at haunting you to your core, shake you to your core. This way of instilling fear is not a surface level like other games that satisfy you with a cheap jump scare. Sato Takeyoshi had a goal of forcing you to think of sex and death deeply when playing this game. These ideas are integral to the game and in real life as well. According to Sato, it is a psychological game. You're meant to feel something deeply unsettling, question yourself and James at the same time, making Silent Hill 2 a true masterpiece. This is a work of art.
Psychological horror has to shake humans' heart, deeply. Shaking people's heart, uncover people's core emotion and think about, sex and death deeply.